All right, what is going on? Welcome to, I tend to do this a lot on the videos. Welcome to the final part of the YouTube sales series. We are rounding it out here. I want to really just make sure that it's somewhat concise, but we have sort of touched on each part of the call by this point, so I don't want to drag it out longer than it needs to. Of course, I will continue to post on this channel and keep giving you guys value in different areas, but I want it to be different topics now rather than like a progressive thing. So every single person that has followed on this kind of little journey so far, I appreciate you a ton. I set a little thing on my vision board of having 750 subscribers on YouTube by the end of July. We're at the end of June. We are kind of on pace to hit that. It's a little tight, but like, I appreciate everyone for yet again allowing some of that vision to really come to life. What we're going to go through on today's episode, I was contemplating whether to even do this episode or not. It is kind of a personal one, and we will go pretty deep on this one. And even people that have maybe been in some of the communities that I've coached in or have seen some of these things, you probably won't have seen it this deep. I want to get super, super personal in this video, okay? So this is going to be more of a rounding towards what sales has allowed for me personally, what it would allow you to be able to do, and really how to utilize sales in the best way possible, okay? So we will be going in to the iPad, of course. You know, that's how we do things over here. And let's get started. Okay, so obviously we've got the white background instead of the black one. I prefer the look of the black one, but don't use Notability. It's fucking everything up. So it like inverted the color of all the pictures. Anyway, the journey of sales, my personal growth and story. Now, obviously, we've already got a little bit of a spoiler alert for what we're about to go through. Actual loser kid. Okay, so this is me at 16. I would have been 15, 16, something around there. It was year 11 if you're in kind of UK schooling. And yeah, pretty bad acne, super long hair, right? Little skateboard dude. I was very, 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 very anxious. Okay, I was a very, very anxious kid. Just wasn't really out there. I was doing my own thing. I played the drums a little bit. I was in a couple, like some bands and stuff. And that was kind of really the only like exciting thing I'd done. Because other than that, I was just at home playing video games, eating shit food. And it was very, very, very socially awkward. Okay, so just social was just like, no. It just wasn't any, okay? So this was me. And the reason I'm showing this is really a point of reference towards all of the growth and stuff that I have now sort of gone through, but it wasn't something that I initially had. It wasn't that I was favored in any way or was in a great position. And I kind of skip all the way to when I was like 19, when I started to take over restaurants. I want to hone in on this a little bit, okay, without being kind of like the uprising underdog type bullshit story, but like, you know, kind of council house upbringing, you know, kind of rough schools, that type of life, okay? I had nothing handed to me. I really didn't have good mentors in my life or anything like that in any dynamics, right? Only child. So that was me, okay? That was me at a young, ripe old age of 16. Okay, so at 19, I took over my first restaurant as the restaurant manager. It's in a small town in the UK called Sudbury. Okay, these are not Sudbury. I don't have any photos from that, but I took over my first restaurant in Sudbury. My birthday's Christmas Eve. I think I took over that restaurant on like the 20th. It was like a few days before my birthday, okay? This is me when I got sick and tired of being a restaurant manager and I went into the kitchen instead and kind of took like the head chef role. Obviously, I'm always trying to be the funny guy, right? I'm wearing a hat that says need a wife. Here is where I was a restaurant manager, and this was a restaurant in Chelmsford. I was the restaurant manager there for a while. So that was me, right, at 19, okay? So by 25, I was still working in a restaurant, living paycheck to paycheck, and really violently trying to escape reality, okay? You have so many vices within your life because your soul is screaming for the life that it knows you are capable of having, okay? So these are just some of mine, and these are often vices for most people, right? Drinking all the time, okay? Drugs, dating, video games, dating, or as I call it then, now looking back at it, chasing, okay? I wasn't bad with women, but It's such a instant gratification mechanism, and it's really coming from a deep-rooted feeling of inadequacy. Okay, so here are some rough photos of this. Okay, this was me every single week. Every single week, going to the clubs Thursday, Friday, Saturday, like 2-3 times a week, just escaping because I was living a life, and this was like 6 years of being a restaurant manager, working, 6 days a week most of the time, 12-hour days, not really having breaks. At 19, felt like something like, oh, wow, this is pretty good. I'm a restaurant manager. I got my first restaurant. I'm 19. It felt good, right? And then what happens? Complacency kicks in, right? I hope that 99% of people watching this video know someone either super close to them or just you kind of know someone a little bit that their life has not changed for years, or they're like 50 and they're still fucking doing the same thing. They lived in one city their whole life. That was their only thing. They married there. They got a job there. They're going to die there. Nothing. Okay. And this was kind of the reality that was starting to look like for me. Okay. So on the face of things, you are fine because it's actually considered normal to be this way. All right. Your biggest detriment will be falling into societal norms. It takes so fucking little to progress as a human. The competition is so low, lower than ever, right? We don't have our own minds. Everything we talk about or think is influenced from bullshit that's been forced down our throats, okay? And you're living this like cycle of doing something that you're unfulfilled by, needing to escape from that reality because you're so burnt out and unfulfilled, and you're like, well, I need to let loose now, and you are just in the fucking hamster wheel of inadequacy. Okay, so I allowed 6 years to waste away. I knew that I wanted to do more, and I tried, quotations, right? Because anyone that tells you like I've been trying, they haven't. Okay, it's just a like trick. You're trying to trick yourself. You're rationalizing. Okay, but nothing ever really happened because I was weak, right? And so easily pulled back into bad habits. You have to make a conscious decision to destroy your old identity. There is no other way. Okay, I'm telling you this from sheer experience. Now, maybe if you are the type of person who had role models that you grew up around or people that had made it to some degree and you could kind of feed off of them, then maybe you have a stronger baseline. But I'm talking like if you are the person that is looking to carve the new path compared to anyone else that you've ever been surrounded by, like you don't have those people, and this is my goal, is like build a legacy, recreate the last name that I have, start fresh, pass on the fucking torch. You have to destroy the old identity. Okay, there is no other way. So that is exactly what I did, right? I invested into myself. Now, any fucking moron on Reddit that is telling you not to buy a course or not to invest into yourself is a brainless schmuck that is destined for a life of mediocrity. And I will explain exactly why. And this is not going to be a pitch to like, hey, buy my mentorship, okay? It's really not. I'm actually going to show you that I invested into myself and it didn't work out. And I still hold the belief that it was absolutely fucking vital that I did so, okay? So we will look at these right here. Receipt from Platin Enterprises, okay? Affluent Academy, 1 year, 3x split payment, 1.5K times 3, okay? As a restaurant manager, I was making roughly, it depended on what restaurant, but it was anywhere between 1.5 and 2K a month. GBP, okay, Great British Pounds. This is obviously in dollars, right? And I think this is give or take like 1.2, 1.3K pounds, okay? But here it was. What was the date on this? September the 8th, 2022, okay? I invested into myself. Right, I made the decision to invest into Jordan Platin's course to start an agency. For context, I was getting paid. There were times where it was this. I'd say maybe a little closer to 1.5K. Okay, but I had no savings, right? Because I just wasted my paychecks every single month enjoying myself. So I literally spent 3 months struggling with money like crazy. I was going into overdraft, and I was just seriously struggling financially. Okay, like very, very, very badly. Okay. But I want to quickly touch on this, right? I want this to be a very personal video, right, and go very deep. So here, I remember jumping on this sales call. right? I remember being fucking terrified. And back then, sales calls weren't, as normalized as they are now, but also, even if they were, like, this was still totally fresh to me, and it scared the fuck out of me, because how they framed it was almost like an interview, like an application. Are you going to be eligible to work with us, type thing, right? So I remember being in like a shirt, and I was like nervous, and I was going red, like I was just a pussy, because the only lens of life that I ever had was working a restaurant, nothing else, no risks, no nothing. Okay, and at 19, like, getting a restaurant, like I said, maybe that felt like a risk a little bit. I moved cities for it, and at the time, but then it becomes your baseline, and if you're never pushing past the baseline, you will just fucking fall into a trap, and you're like, oh shit, 30 years have passed, and I'm the same. Okay, so honestly, I had some success with the course, but it really wasn't anything special, and I actually remember gaining a fuck ton more value from a guy called Thomas Gannett. If you're in the agency space or went through that period, then you might know him, right? And he just had like a YouTube video, and he kind of uploaded like how he was cold calling leads and how he structured his agency. I built my agency mostly around his free course that he had, right? So like I invested all this money, and I didn't really use much of it at all. And they had one-on-one coaching, and it was not really anything good. And it was like, I just remember not utilizing that course. Okay, so why do I say that you should still invest into yourself despite this experience of dropping a very significant amount of money for me at the time and not getting results from it? Because it is essential that you draw a line in the sand of your own destiny, and you step into someone new. The new version of yourself, the catalyst, the shifting moment. Okay, my back at that time was against the fucking wall, right? I remember distinctly, I started cold calling in the restaurant office during my short breaks. I was taking no days off, and I felt this need to make it work. And one side tangent of this is people will look at you like you are fucking crazy, right? People were looking at me like I'm crazy, like I'm absurd, like I'm weird. What happened to you? You've changed, right? And we'll see a common trend of that. But like, all of a sudden, going from the person that was like drinking every weekend, and I really want to like paint this viscerally, every fucking weekend for like 6 years. Okay, it's very easy just to have a tiny little like one sentence line here, and you're like, yeah, fair enough, or whatever. Like, I want you to actually viscerally think 6 whole years of my life gone just doing this bullshit. Okay, so I needed to make this work, okay? And you will get the people around you because you have the wrong people around you. Otherwise, you wouldn't probably be in the position where you're not fully happy if you had the right people who look at you as all of these things, and you have to ignore it, okay? It had nothing to do with the value of the course. It had everything to do with sending a message to the universe that I am ready to change, right? This is key, okay? You will find that everything happens for a reason, and it is a stepping stone towards something else. So even if it doesn't work out, who fucking cares? And I will literally say this on sales calls, okay? And I want this to be like still a sales training as well. It's like when you go through these things, when you draw these line in the sand moments, when you set a risk upon yourself, you change who you are at an identity level, which means that you can guide other people through that, okay? And this is why it's so important. If you are the motherfucker that is just hiding behind closed doors, not pushing yourself, not being the risk taker, not investing into yourself, not doing anything, you won't be a good sales rep. You might be an average one at best, okay? Now, my agency was doing fine, like done fine, okay? We had a peak month of 10K. That was like the most that we ever made, right? It was super volatile though, okay? We would lose some clients, we would gain some clients, etc., right? And the one ISA, which is someone that contacts basically my clients' leads, stopped working for me, and it all fell apart, okay? And then guess what happened right around the time where it fell apart? I don't think anyone has seen this. This, as you can see, is an application for Grow Your Agency. And one of the tasks that they had us do was draw a whale. So you can see Agency Navigator, Grow Your Agency, and I drew this whale. And it says here, this is meant to be a whale with a big cheesy grin, not a psychopath whale plotting a murder. Okay, so I was still trying to be funny. I wasn't. Right around that time, Iman, right, Iman Gadzhi put up a story looking for SDRs. I didn't even know what the fucking SDR was, okay, but I applied for it anyway. And here I am with my green screen fucking background, okay, which was because I was kind of also into like gaming and Twitch streaming and all kinds of shit, okay. I've done a little bit of everything because I was trying to escape. I couldn't find anything, okay. What do you think the likelihood is if we look at this? That I would have landed that role without at least a little bit of a baseline and some form of kind of decent knowledge in the agency space, right? Given that Iman was selling an agency course. So without that bad investment, I wouldn't have landed the thing that completely changed my life. So this is what I was talking about, okay? Everything is perspective, right? And this is one of the biggest takeaways that I've gotten from going deep and going all fucking in on sales. And we will talk about some of these things. It's perspective. Everything is good. Everything is a blessing. Everything I'm thankful for. I get an objection. Thank fuck. I'm so glad I got that objection. Now I'm going to be able to handle the next one better. Now I'm more resilient. Now I'm going to be better at communicating, right? Oh, I had an objection and I tripped up on my words. Perfect, right? Now I'm better at communicating. Now I'm going to practice that. Now everything is perspective. Perfect. That's one no, which is leading me closer to a yes. Everything, every single little thing is perspective because most people are weak. And if you don't go through these things, if you don't take bets on yourself, if you don't go through trials and tribulations and hardships, you will just remain weak and nothing will fucking change, okay? And that's why I've said, and we'll go through some of this as well, getting into a role as like a cold caller will literally change who you are. It will change how you look. It will change how you come across. It will change how you communicate, everything, right? Your resilience, your work ethic, everything will change. And I have a couple of guys that worked with me on an agency that I consulted who embodied the fuck out of this. And both of them are studs. And I think I talk about this a little bit later on. But they were willing to eat shit for a few months because they knew what happens on the other side of it. Why did they know that? Because I went through that. So I was able, as a mentor, to tell them that. And I have now become, and that should be your goal as well, I have now become the person that I wish I had had 7-10 years ago. I try to be that role model. I try to endow knowledge that I have, okay? And that should be the ultimate goal. And obviously I'm running multiple teams right now, and that's really the biggest goal for me. And that's the most fulfilling thing. And sales is what catalysted all of this, okay? Now, anyone that previously worked with me when I joined Iman's team knows that I was reserved, shy, and honestly just kind of a little weird. And I'm still a little weird, right? I embraced that side, but like I was like, it wasn't an endearing weird, okay? It was just weird. So, I have always had good work ethic. Even in the restaurant, right? I may have been wasting my time and energy as one, but I was the manager that was always going above and beyond. And I was like an area support trainer, and I would go and help other restaurants, not even paid for it, right? It was just a title. I was just a schmuck. I was an idiot, okay? But the day I got the job, I left the restaurant. And again, hard to portray in just a random note. To break a cycle of 6 years is much more difficult than I can possibly express on here, right? Every part of me wanted to cling on just in case, right? Those negative mind viruses of like, well, I could probably just work both for, at least like a month or a couple weeks or something, just in case it doesn't work out. But I didn't. Because what signal is that showcasing to the universe, to the world? And if we just go a little bit more logical, you're splitting yourself in terms of work performance into two. You are only one human being, so naturally the work performance will have a hit as a result, okay? So it's a stupid thing to even try and do that, but most people do. Most people are like, well, I'm just gonna have this little backup rather than going all fucking in, okay? I didn't do that. I went all in, right? And that is a common theme that you will see that is directly linked to why I have had any form of success. Okay, now, time to talk sales, right? I started as an SDR. I pushed every single week to try and be the top setter, right? We had pods at the time, so it was like teams, okay? And I started to learn sales. It was all so new and fresh for me, but it was exciting at the same time, right? When it comes to just the sales side specifically, there's been other people involved in kind of my growth, but just on the sales side, Paul Daly, who was the CEO at the time, and Max Thompson, who was the sales manager at the time, opened my eyes to what was possible with sales, right? If you get around the right fucking people, you will transcend. We had an awesome team of killers, and somewhere around kind of 3-ish months in, I progressed to closer. purely because I was determined. I actually hardly knew fucking anything about closing at the time. I really didn't. Okay, but I was pushing myself. I was always going for top setter, and most weeks I was getting that. I had a really high set to close ratio. Okay, we had an amazing closer who actually helped me a lot on the progression into the closing role. He kind of saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. Again, getting around the right people. He started role playing with me and checking like, okay, like this is a frame. Like I didn't know anything about sales, okay? But I was always very careful with people I put on the calendar, and that's why he saw that thing in me. I think I had like a 74% set to close ratio, some shit like that. So like 74% of the sets that I put on the calendar closed, okay? So if you are currently a setter that wants to become a closer, but you can't even be a top performing setter, or you're not a top performing setter, you have to lower your ego. It's time to go dog mode. Okay, any team that I run right now, the guys who are absolute dog setters, like they just dog it the fuck out, I know that they will be a machine of a closer. Okay, and anyone that is in that role, that is basically my goal, is like, cool, get them into that role, because I know they're just going to crank it out. But they have to go through this first. Okay, and like everyone's got this like idealistic view of like, oh well, I'll get into closing and I'm just gonna make a bunch of money and there's just inbound like calls coming in. But it's like, you're a pussy, you're gonna jump on calls and you're gonna have 6 calls in a day and you're gonna be so worn out and you're gonna get so emotional because one of them didn't close or 2 of them didn't close, and you're a pussy. Okay, this is why it is so important to actually become a strong setter, especially if you're able to land in a role that's like dialing as well. If you're dialing and you're getting rejected and people are telling you to fuck off, right, and all of this shit, you're going to then be a closer who, like, you have the bandwidth to do 12 calls a day, you'll get some no's layered in within it, and you are just emotionally stable. And that should be your goal, right? I hope everyone has seen someone who shit hits the fan and they are unfazed. They continue as normal. Right? That's my goal. That's always my goal as a human, is how can I become more and more emotionally stable so that nothing throws me off, okay? And that is one of the biggest things that sales will allow you to do, right? Any team that I run right now, the absolute dog setters, I know they will become a machine closer, and sales is the #1 transformative vehicle that you could ever be in. It will improve your emotional stability, resilience, rejection threshold, communication skills, work ethic, relationships, language pattern, views of the world, everything, okay? And this is what it has done for me, because I am a different fucking person, right? And every now and then those little shadow identities of a former self crop up. And now I have the cognitive awareness to nip them in the bud. Hey, that's an old version of me. That thing doesn't serve me. Remember how unhappy you were? Yeah, I'm just going to get rid of that. And I've said this before, and most people can't actually wrap their head around it. Your thoughts are a choice. Okay? And it's very difficult to get to this point. I would now say I am 99% of the way there. I genuinely feel that way, right? Like something happens and I put it through a lens of like, is this thing going to serve me? Is this thought actually going to serve me? Or is this just kind of a thought that cropped up from somewhere else that doesn't have my best interest in mind, some kind of bullshit post that I saw or whatever it might be? Or is it just a former thing of myself, like a societal thing, right? An environment, childhood thing that's cropping up? It doesn't serve me. Fuck it. Go away. Right, I got a bigger things to focus on. Okay? So, we're continuing. Spirituality, confidence, I could go on forever, okay? If it wasn't for sales, I would still be that anxious dude that's kind of weird, that hasn't done anything, that's trying to escape, that's just trying to find a place in the world, okay? Understand that your life is ticking away constantly. It is only the moments in the present that define what your future will look like, which is why I became obsessive with this shit, okay? Every single day. And I don't mean this to like the point where it's like, okay, you can't even have one day where you do something you enjoy. No, that's different. But you got to redefine your narrative and definition of what you actually enjoy. Because most people, and we will also touch into this, most people, what they enjoy is actually something that is a sabotaging act. So you don't really enjoy it. You've just been conditioned to believe that you should enjoy it. But I guarantee if you look at that, there's someone else that's benefiting from that way more than you are. You've just tricked your own self into that's something that you enjoy, okay? So, and as a result, we are wasting away the future potential of what we could have. If we redefine what is actually fun, you will continue to progress. For me, anything that I do that's fun, I also want it to progress me. So I've said this before, like if I'm gonna play guitar, I'll block it off on my calendar, and at least that way it's like I'm having fun, but I'm also learning a skill. So you can still lower your stress of the day and do things that you enjoy, but it shouldn't be like, oh, I'm going to watch Netflix for the next, 12 hours. That's not actually fun, okay? You've just been tricked to believe it is, right? So anyone who has been on my coaching calls know that I talk about all of this stuff, right? I listened, and mainly still do, even though I'm not selling, I'm managing. I listen to core reviews in the gym or on walks or during any gap in my day, and then I was transcripting them and I was editing them. How could I have said these things differently? And I'm practicing it, and I'm going just so obsessive over minute little details. Look at that. I had some really uncertain body language there. I was holding my throat, or I'm just getting obsessive, laser analytical. And if anyone's listened to any of my core reviews, they're like, oh shit, how did you even notice this stuff? Because I fucking got obsessive over it. That is it, okay? I invested into mentorships. I started training SDRs on my team. Anything I could get my hands on sales related, I did. Okay, and this is another thing. So many people are selfish, right? If you become a closer, start training the SDRs, or even if you're an SDR that's been there longer than some of the other SDRs, start training them, right? When you become the mentor or the coach or the person that is endowing knowledge, you actually fundamentally strengthen what you already have, because you're now looking at it through a teaching lens rather than just like your own lens. Okay, so what else I done? I audited my life and I removed the viruses from it. Okay, and this was like such a necessary point of growth. Okay, and this is stuff that people are so afraid to do. Okay, I removed, and I want to be clear with that word, the viruses from it. The people, the environments, the habits, all of it, right? And I won't do too much in terms of public stories on this, just because this is like on YouTube. But some people know about this stuff on my private coaching calls, but like I have completely cut people out that I was friends with for literally years. And it wasn't an ego thing. It was at a deep level, if you really audit this shit, they didn't actually want what was best for me. It was constant guilt and shame. And for anyone that knows about the map of consciousness, right? I have that in front of me at all times. Guilt and shame are the lowest levels of consciousness, okay? And that's the type of people that you're probably hanging around with. It was constant guilt and shame that I've changed, or that I won't come out and drink with them, or this or that. Oh my God, what the hell's wrong with you? Why are you working so much? You're weird, you're this. Fucking just constant, okay? I stopped playing video games. I stopped dating. I moved out of a house share that I was in at the time, right? Because anything that was lowering my potential, I surgically removed that shit. And this is the only way to grow. And I want to hone in on this thing a little bit more, okay? Because most people will say, well, but they have good intentions, right? So like I have had friends of like 7+ years that done this shit. They didn't actually have good intentions. They were good people, quote unquote. They had to go. Do you want to allow someone else to determine the future pathway that you have in your life because they can't wrap their head around your own potential? You have to be asking these things, and then you have to make the difficult choices, because at certain point you will look back and say, I probably should have got rid of that person, right? Because you know what's funny is because these people are so low consciousness, it is only a matter of time before they fuck you over, because I also experienced that. And then I was like, oh, fuck, crazy. I found out about this thing, glad that I got rid of them from my life, and it didn't even affect me because I am transcending way beyond them. You start to realize like, yep, they're just low in the consciousness levels is what it is, okay? And that is, again, sales that catalysted all of that, okay? But I had to get rid of everything. I surgically removed it, and that is the only way to grow, okay? And people will talk about balance, and like, yes, I'm not saying just sit here 7 days a week, grinding it out, 14 hours a day, don't do anything. There is something as balance, but it's balance by intention that you are setting. You are not being pulled into agendas. You are setting those agendas, right? If you want to go and date, block it off on your fucking calendar on a Saturday night. All right, like, well, I'm going to dedicate 3 hours to it. And then when I come back, I'm going to like, do this one thing. So it's like you're so intentional with how you are doing things, because you should also be choosing a season. So if you actually want to evoke change in yourself, you should be going all fucking in. Now, that doesn't mean that you can't still do some little things, but again, auditing it on like, is this actually growing me? Or is this like some kind of deep rooted like desire that is actually influenced by bullshit, right? Is it actually going to absorb energy from me rather than give me energy and allow me to fulfill more of my potential, okay? And that is kind of what I'm talking about on it. I don't want to go on and on and on too much because we'll get so deep in the weeds, right? But if you're messaging, this is kind of a side note, if you're messaging me asking to be a setter or a closer and you are not obsessive, I do not want you. I just don't. Okay, I can kind of feel through the looms who is actually obsessive, and then I will absolutely test you on an interview as well, right? It takes like 1 to 2 years of going all fucking in and everything will change. So like, let me ask the question, is 1 to 2 years of sacrificing, let me quote that a little bit, right? Of, you know, getting rid of some bullshit that actually isn't really even helping you anyway, and you've just been taught to feel like it's fun, is 1 to 2 years of sacrifice worth allowing you to catalyst and catapult into the life that you actually deserve to have, okay? I was the top closer, and actually the top closer on Iman's for most weeks, okay? Like most weeks. I'm not but saying I was top closer every single week, right? There's a lot of claims in the high ticket space from almost everyone. Like, I'm not just talking about Iman specifically, I'm talking about like any offer that I've ever been in, any mentors that I've ever learned from. It's a tendency of sales reps to just take what was said and absolutely fucking go crazy with expanding on it. Like someone who's generated 1 million cash collected, they'll be like, yep, generated like 4 million in the space. It's just crazy, okay? But anyone that was on the team legitimately will say I would always get shout outs on the Friday huddles. Like for a bunch of weeks in a row, I had a huge streak, okay? Max, who is our COO, who is an amazing human being, one of the hardest working people I've ever worked with, would always be like, oh, yep, well, you guys are probably getting bored of it right now, but like Scott collected this amount this week, so he's the top closer, right? And don't get me wrong, I had other people like James. James kind of jumped in as a closer after me, and he was he was a tank. Okay, so like this guy had started to knock me off the leaderboard and things, and there was other situations where I wasn't top, okay, but I went all fucking in, and I was mostly top, right? So I then started to do coaching calls, and that was just like thrown on my plate. And of course, at that time, I was still developing myself, so there was that fear, and I don't want to do this. Like, why am I being put on a coaching call? I want to just right. And guess what? That was again one of the biggest blessings of my life, getting put onto a coaching call and having the fear of doing it and not knowing whether I should have done it. I was lucky that it was thrown on my plate, but now, if it wasn't, now I'm constantly like, okay, what is there to take? What can I go and do that maybe like I don't want to do? And I'll just go and seek them out, okay? And you should be the same. Seek out the things that you feel like, I don't want to do that thing, and go and fucking do it, okay? So I started doing coaching calls. I built like a small crowd of people who just, really vibed and resonated with my coaching. Then I became the sales manager, collected just under 2 mil with Iman specifically, somewhere around like 3.5 million total, like actual numbers, not stretched sales ego shit. Here is me and Iman after running the Educate Marathon, and we'll kind of touch on that as well, right? The biggest piece of advice I can give is every single time you do something that you genuinely don't, single time you see something that you genuinely don't want to do, go and fucking do it, right? Which is what I was talking about earlier there, right? Running the Educate Marathon, I had never in my life, I'm not even joking, ran a day in my life. Like maybe a little bit for sports, like in, high school, right? But by this point, I'm fucking, I don't know, 26, 27, something like that, probably 27 here. Never ran a day in my life. Genuinely believed that I could not do it. Like it wasn't possible. And I was trying to cop out. I was thinking, okay, how can I get out of this? How can I not show up on the day and all of this stuff, right? But I did it, okay? Investing into Jordan Platten's course, I'd done it anyway, right? Investing into Josh Lyons' mastermind, $3K a month. I've been there for a year now. Okay, so you can do that. Fucking 3,000 times by 12. How much have I invested into him? Actually, I also spent 6,000 of 4 of those months into the manager's license. Okay, so you can fucking figure out the maths if you want. And I'm telling you, I've had some months where I was like, shit, things are a little tight right now, right? Things just didn't kind of go how I thought they were going to go. I never dropped off because I like that. I like that zone where things are not great, things are uncomfortable. That will develop you into a fucking warrior, okay? Removing the friends from my life, right? Done it anyway. Working 7 days a week for months on end and fighting the programming we have from society of needing to unwind. Done it anyway. I joined a band a few months ago as a singer because it scared the shit out of me and I started doing vocal lessons. Done it anyway, right? I've been a drummer in a band when I was like 20. Scary, but the thought of being on stage as in a band, terrifying. So I joined a band, okay? And now I actually haven't done a gig yet. That will be further down the road. I want to. It's just that opportunity hasn't come up. But it's even just joining the band with a bunch of strangers and singing, and I feel very vulnerable singing. I like that it scares the shit out of me, and I'm constantly trying to look for things like that, whether it's cold approaching, whatever it might be. Like, I'm like, okay, what is the thing that fucking eats me alive in the moment, okay? Rejection therapy type tasks, all of this stuff, okay? The future version of you will thank you for removing the low frequency activities and replacing it with high ones, okay? What are you doing right now that is just a low frequency activity, whether it's video games, whether it's like certain types of dog shit music, whatever, right? What can you do and you replace it? If you're scrolling all the time, how can you replace it, okay? I've had guys cold calling for me who are banging out numbers of dials that I still haven't seen again to this day. And guess what? Both those dudes have been crushing it and making great money. There was other people as well, but these two guys in specific, I'm still in very heavy communication with, and I still work with them as well, okay? They're making great money because they went all fucking in. They were ripping 12-hour days, straight cold calling, just built an insane resilience that they became unrecognizable, a new identity. And I would never train a team of sales reps on things that I haven't done myself. I have walked that path, and I'm still just beginning. There's so fucking much more to come. Right, this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning of the breakthrough, okay? But I still have began this path, and if I can help endow that kind of knowledge onto others and bring them onto the path with me, then that is my number one goal, okay? Be the person I wish I had 5-10 years ago, okay? Now, audit your life, look at all the things that feel good, but is actually the path to misery and mediocrity, and decide today, do I want to be a failure or not? Because that is the only choice. I spent the first half of my life being a failure, surrounded by failures. Now, I'm very conscious of anything that I give my mental bandwidth to. And you should be the same. Again, because there will be some people, oh, this sounds so extreme. It's like, you can do things that are considered more low frequency, right? Watch a movie, for example. Did you set an intention to do it? Or did it just fucking happen because you have no control and you're reactive? Those are two very different things. It's the person who can at least say, okay, well, this thing doesn't necessarily help me get anywhere in life, but I've got my schedule. Everything is really locked in all week, and I'm going to watch a movie during this time. That person's wired very differently to the person who's like, I had a stressful couple of hours, so I'm going to watch a movie, right? That's totally different. Totally fucking different, okay? So I'm not saying you need to live a miserable life and just work 90 fucking hours a week, okay? That's not what I'm saying. What I'm saying is start to get specific with what you're doing and also reframe what is actually fun. When I was young, used to read all the time. And then guess what? I haven't read for like 10 fucking years by the end of being a restaurant manager. Now, I don't scroll on social media. I can't remember the last time I watched a film, but I do a lot of reading. That is still downtime, but it is very intentional downtime, and it's much more higher frequency. It's going to help me a lot more. When I'm walking along in the road, I'll listen to a sales call, I'll listen to a sales training or a call review from myself or from someone else. I'm just selecting the things that are happening and I'm changing them. I'm just like, I could just tweak this and it's actually going to help me. And if you're doing that constantly every single week, think where you'll be in a year from now, okay? And that's the point I'm trying to do, right? Moral of the story, sales changed my life. It will change yours too, but not if you half-ass it. Not if you think it's the cheat code to 10k a month and like also 30, 50, 60k a month, right? It's not a cheat code to it, right? I have had so many months where I actually really made nothing special at all, especially kind of first beginning out. It wasn't like, oh my god, I landed an appointment center and I'm making 12k, right? It just doesn't happen, right? I've also had those 30 plus k months as well. You got to pick your poison, okay? Now, obviously, I'm like one of the lead coaches in Sales.io. I'm running 4 sales teams at the same time, right? I've ran sales teams of Iman, obviously, for Ashton Hall. I'm currently running Will Brown's team, right? I've ran a bunch of other fucking offers as well, but these are kind of 3 pretty damn big names, okay? I'm traveling all the time for different events. I have a genuine feeling of like fulfillment. I actually feel like I'm pushing towards something that inspires others and inspires me and just makes me feel so much fucking happier with everything that is going on. And I could go on and on with this list, okay? Like everything, the environment I'm in, the house I'm in, all of this stuff now is like just really going to where I need it to be, okay? You have no idea how everything is the butterfly effect, right? That one risk that didn't pay off, right? The investing in a course in my scenario is the exact reason that you will get what you want in life further down the road. The universe gives to those that resist the brainwashing. It is not normal to eat shit food every day. It is not normal to watch TV all day. It is not normal to drink a shit ton of alcohol. It is not normal to jerk, right? It's not normal to unwind by scrolling through dopamine frying short form. Your definition of what is actually fun was carefully constructed throughout your entire life by the media because you are playing a game of having your money leached because you are powerless. But you still believe that you have the say. And we've seen that in a lot of things in society that I won't even talk about. Start paying attention to the things that you allow into your subconscious because your thoughts right now aren't even your own. Okay? They are a Frankenstein creation of all of the random influence and information that is being fed to us. And I'm so cautious of this, and this is why a lot of stuff has changed in my life, okay? There is no one on this planet that is coming to save you, only yourself. You have all the answers within, but you lost faith in your own ability because it has been stripped away, right? So that's why you need to take risks, you need to get around better people, you need to push yourself and remove the noise, and you'll watch everything else start to change. And as you go through those things, you will regain the trust within yourself. And that is where you start to really realize that, like, we have all the answers. But you a lot of the time, like I did, you need someone to unlock that within you, right? The right type of people, okay? Sales done all of this for me, right? I use reframes in my everyday life. Everything is perspective. I can handle rejection. I can calm my mind and be present. I'm a stronger communicator. I am tapped into things others can't even wrap their fucking heads around, which is great. Right? Again, I don't know if you've heard this quote. You can't become extraordinary by doing the ordinary. Okay? And most people are doing this. Most people are just ordinary. They're doing regular things. Even the people who are working hard, they're just working at a normal rate. So why do you expect to get like these crazy results? You're not going to get them. And anyone who ever says to me like, "Oh man, like it feels like you've like changed so much in the last year or two." Amazing. I would hope so. Because I'm pretty like vigilant with being all in on all this stuff, okay? And again, it's like, because the future version of me will thank myself, right? I don't want to be grinding it out like a machine 10 years from now. But if I have to do it for a few years in order to really get a life that I want to have, I'm very willing to do that, right? It's the opportunity cost. Most people aren't okay sacrificing 1 to 2 years, even though that would set them up for the remaining 50 of their life. Okay, we've got it backwards, right? This only happened because of sales. Everything in life is sales. Relationships, business, inner confidence, everything. It could go on forever, okay? Here's like a nice little new photo of me, okay? Looking all cool with the sunglasses on, just vibing out on a coaching call, technically making money whilst being we were here in Florida. Kind of crazy. Okay, because I was the guy that just lived in the UK, never really left the UK, maybe for a couple of random holidays to Spain or whatever, and now everything is within my own hands, okay? So I wanted this to be a little bit more of just like a holistic, all-round, almost like a thank you message to sales. But at the same time, it's a thank you to myself because I went all fucking in. And I really went balls to the wall. And I really made sure that I done whatever was necessary to make this happen. And guess what? My family will thank me. Like the current family, my future family will thank me. All of this stuff, okay? And one photo that I didn't actually put on here, and I think a lot of people know this story, but maybe on the YouTube side they won't know this, is like I'm in a fortunate enough position to be able to give back. So one thing that I done is I set a very clear financial, I'm just scrolling through my phone right now. I set a very, very clear financial target that on the year that my dad retires, which was like last year, I would buy him a car that we have talked about since I was like 10 or 11 years old, okay? It's like a V8, it's like 500 horsepower, like beast, okay? Is this the one? No, this isn't the one. I thought I actually found the Facebook advert for it. And I set that intention and I got crystal clear on how much I need to make in order to make that happen. And guess where this all came from? This came from the very first in-person event at Josh Lyons Mastermind. He didn't do anything for me, but he helped me set the goal. Like, he'd done a lot for me in terms of the training, but in terms of that goal, it was just that he set it like, what do you want and what do you want to achieve in life? How can we get crystal clear on that actually happening? And because I was with the right person, I made it happen, and I set the clear, tangible steps to actually get there and make it happen, okay? Okay, right there, you can see this is the original ad that went up, okay? A Vauxhall Monaro VXR, it's like V8, fucking few hundred horsepower, it's crazy, right? It's like 500 horsepower. I found that ad, spoke to the guy, put down a deposit, went and viewed the car, right? Here's like a picture of me viewing, well, not me viewing the car, but here's a picture of the car when I went to view it, okay? And here's the front of it, and I just went and fucking done it, okay? And I went and bought it, and then I can very quickly kind of show a quick little photo. I'll do one for privacy's sake where it doesn't have his face in it, but here you can see my dad like looking into the car, like checking it out and everything. And that is something that will sit in my brain for the rest of my life. The day that I took a bet on myself, dropped a reasonable amount of money, right, at the time, and it's still, it's probably the most I've ever spent, just up front on something. And just that moment of like envisioning what that would feel like living that future scenario. I've got the keys, right? And we just drive past that car, and I'm like, oh, isn't that car that, we used to talk about all the time? Oh, yeah, well, that's so weird. Oh, like, we should stop and check it out. And then it's just like, give the keys. Hey, it's yours, right? And that's really what life is all about, okay? And whilst it may seem like I'm being very extreme with some of the things that I'm saying in terms of like, go all in, remove all the viruses, that is what's allowed me to have experiences like that. And that's a whole lot more fulfilling than sitting on TikTok for the last 3 hours of your fucking day, okay? So with that being said, that is the end of the YouTube sales series. This one was less sales training, of course, but this was just more of an indicator and a marker towards if you just buckle in and you just make shit happen, everything will happen. Okay, sales may not be the end goal for you, but it will absolutely catalyst the things that can happen for you, right? It will lead into other things, just like it has for me, right? I'm still in the sales ecosystem, but now I'm managing teams, now I'm doing coaching, right? It's like a different dynamic of it. For you, it might lead into a specific type of business. It might just lead into some other type of career. I have no idea. But you taking a bet on yourself and going all fucking in on it will allow you to develop the character traits and the work ethic and the resilience and everything that we've discussed to become someone that is unrecognizable, but also someone that is just a true asset to society and to the world and to anything that you do as a future endeavor. Because most people are living a life of chosen mediocrity, but they're also the ones that are crying about why their life is shit. They chose that reality. Don't do the same. I will see you in the next video. We'll get into some other sales training things. Appreciate everyone so much for all of these things. I wanted to get a little deep and personal with some of the backstory and photos of myself that I don't really want to share publicly, but hey ho, here we fucking are. And again, that's another thing of putting yourself out there and taking risks and doing stuff that's uncomfortable, okay? Peace and love. I will catch you on the next one.